What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and tonight we are going to have something very special. We're going to go over our national awareness rankings of the Democratic candidates that are running for president. Instead of using some poll that is 375 people and the media reports as that being representative of what the collective of 300 plus million people think, let's actually look at some fucking data to see who is the most interesting according to the American public. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it is good to freaking see you. Let's get into it. So when we backtest some of this data in the 2016 election where Hillary and Trump were up against each other, we saw that according to the Google Trends, this is all search volume across Google on the web, for Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. Donald Trump had about a 2-to-1 in terms of 2 searches for Donald Trump for every 1 search of Hillary Clinton. And then when it came to YouTube, he had about the same, a 2-to-1 ratio. And the model that we made actually predicted who was going to win. When you look at all the polls, that most of them actually said that Hillary was favored, when it clearly showed, if you look at the data, that Trump was actually favored. And then yesterday for the New Hampshire primary, we also predicted that it was going to be Bernie Sanders, with number 2 being Pete Buttigieg. So we wanted to add some more depth in this to get a broader swath of actually what's happening. So we have five separate factors. We have 2 from YouTube, and I'm going to dive right into those, where we take a look over the last 24 hours for each candidate's name, and we look at the total number of views on videos with their name in the title or in the thumbnail, and we take the top 10 of those and stack them up, who had the most amount of views, who had the least amount of views. And then we did the same thing for who had the most number of videos published with their name in the title and or thumbnail over the past 24 hours. And we stack rank the candidates in both of those factors, 1 through 8, to see who had the most amount of views down to who had the least, and who had the most amount of other people working for them for free by creating content, and who had the least. The next factor we took a look at was on on Twitter, where we took a look at the hashtag for each candidate's name, and then we counted up the total number of usages over the last hour. So this is a very micro snapshot. This is also has a little bit less weighting in the overall score. The next was Instagram. So Instagram, we looked at the collective usage of each candidate's hashtag on Instagram over time. And as you can see here, Pete Buttigieg has 42,000 plus people who have used his hashtag. Now, another factor that we just added in 2 to 4 weeks ago was TikTok, and the website actually is not doesn't allow us to have the same functionality as the app, but I have my profile pulled up here. You guys should check it out. Link in the description. Over the past 28 days, I've had over 5 million views over there. But on TikTok, what we actually take a look at is anytime somebody uses the hashtag, say Pete Buttigieg, these are videos, so they're 2 seconds, 3 seconds, up to 1 minute long. How many times have those videos been viewed? And we stack rank the candidates 1 through 8. And this is going to give us a good indicator of who Generation Z is actually interested in, because that's the largest generation. It's also the generation that's expected to have the biggest turnout increase for 2020 out of all the other generations, according to Pew Research. And I took all of this data together and put it into a spreadsheet to come up with an overall score. And the top 5 candidates are, for our national awareness rankings, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, and Michael Bloomberg. So I want to talk about some of the data in here, because Joe Biden coming in at second, I think, is more of an indication that his campaign is actually not doing very well, and people are just talking about it. I don't think either he was blindsided and just not being aware of like how his perception was coming across in Iowa and in New Hampshire. He is number 2 here based on all the data, and he does have mainstream media that loves to talk about him, but it just doesn't seem the energy in terms of the comments I see around him across all the different rankings that we do, because we do a YouTube search volume ranking, we do a Google search volume ranking, we rank their websites just to get the most collective understanding of what is happening in America, and we roll that all up into our national power ranking. So if you want to check that out, go back to the channel. And it doesn't appear that a lot of the sentiment around Joe Biden is positive. And then when we see New Hampshire and Iowa, and it's like that confirms what is actually happening. Because when we looked at Iowa, I had Joe Biden coming in at 5th based upon the model that we created here, which is pretty evident. He did not do well in New Hampshire at all. So let's just run through a quick recap of some of these numbers. This is the total number of views on the top 10 videos that have been published on YouTube within the last 24 hours that has the name and or likeness of their name in the title or in the thumbnail of the video. We can see that Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are the only two with over 1 million views in the last 24 hours. But a decent number of the titles for Joe Biden, as I was going through and collecting this data, were like, Joe Biden's campaign in panic mode, Joe Biden's campaign fucking collapsing. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because we've been kind of calling this for the last month to 6 weeks now, that something's going on with his campaign, and the things that he's saying, the way he's presenting himself just doesn't seem to be connecting with a large amount of Americans who are consuming that. The next person, which was actually a little bit of a surprise, she's still not super relevant, but it was Amy Klobuchar. She had 239,000 views on YouTube. Elizabeth Warren had 216. Pete had 450 almost. This metric is actually super interesting. So this is the total number of creators that are making content. So you kind of view this as like influencers, but these influencers might not necessarily be saying positive things about you, as in the case of Joe Biden. But these are other people who are getting your message out. So if you're able to influence them to talk about you in a way that allows you to get your message out to more people, kudos, right? That's going to be helpful. Bernie Sanders is doing a great job of that. There was 280 videos made with Bernie Sanders in the title and or thumbnail in the last 24 hours when I did this research. That is 2.5 times almost the next closest person, which is Pete Buttigieg. That's pretty crazy. Oh, another interesting one I completely forgot to mention is Michael Bloomberg. So I've seen some interesting stuff. I think that Hawkfish LLC company that he founded and that he's actually doing recruiting for from his Mike 2020 website is being tremendously helpful. They're doing some influencer marketing. They're spending a tremendous amount of money on Facebook, and it is working. People are looking for his stuff. Is this going to be a moment in time, or is this going to continue building? I think Joe is probably going to be on his way out relatively soon. If he doesn't unless he sees some type of surge, I would expect Joe to probably, I don't think he's going to do very well, but I see the establishment kind of, I wonder if they're going to get behind Michael Bloomberg. I see they get behind Michael Bloomberg before they would Tom Steyer, because Michael Bloomberg just has more name recognition than Tom Steyer does. But that was kind of interesting that he also had 105 videos made about him and almost 700,000 views, more than Pete Buttigieg. And if you look at like the top 4 here, the top 4 are Pete, Bernie, Joe, and Michael. But it is kind of interesting to see how quickly Michael Bloomberg is ramping up. I'm curious to see how their influencer marketing that they're really leaning heavy into is working. And I'm curious to see how that plays out over the next couple weeks as we do more iterations of these different types of rankings, because we also do a YouTube ranking specifically on their YouTube channel, a Twitter ranking based upon their follower growth and how much work they're putting in, their Instagram, their TikTok, etc. So the next that we mentioned was Twitter, and that you can see Bernie Sanders just completely walked all over everybody, 4x anybody else. The next closest person was Amy Klobuchar, which was very surprising. She had 51 tweets about her, which is pretty incredible for her because she's been non-existent since I've been doing these. So something happened along the way. Um, she was number 2 in terms of tweets, and I took this at 117 today. Today is 2/12/2020. The number of posts on Instagram. Bernie Sanders, this is comes probably a lot from 2016 because it is the cumulative amount of people who have used posts with this hashtag at 1.25 million. Just a multiple bigger than the next closest person, which is Joe Biden at 180,000. Now over here, this, as I mentioned, is from the views that are associated with the videos published on TikTok when their hashtag is used. And look at the big difference between Bernie Sanders and everybody else. Bernie Sanders has 20.4 million views on people who used his hashtags videos. The next closest is Joe Biden. But last time I was doing the research for Joe Biden, there was like, Joe Biden's a racist. These are other hashtags that are closely associated with this, or Sleepy Joe or Creepy Joe, or like other hashtags associated with it when you look up Joe Biden. So I just don't feel like there's a tremendous amount of positive sentiment around Joe Biden, even though he does have 10 million, which gives him the second spot in terms of the amount of awareness around him and his message or his name. And we'll see if he's good enough to actually do something with that. What we're currently seeing with the data, it doesn't look like he's going to be around too much longer. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. And I did actually just finish my Patreon, which is also down below. I quit my job and I'm going to be doing this full time. So if you want to support this, press that thumbs up button at the very least. And if you want to contribute to this research, there's a link in the description and I would appreciate it. Have a great day.